Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the all-new Ram SUV. Yes, that is right. But before we get into this video, I want to say this first and foremost. This video is extremely speculative, like as speculative as it gets. But with all that being said, in the first part of the video, I'm going to talk about what the specs of the SUV would be, and then we're going to get into whether or not this SUV would make sense for Ram to actually produce, and then we'll cap things off with basically if they do end up doing this again, because this is tons of speculation, should you actually consider getting one of these things? And yeah, let's get into the video. So what would the specs be for this new Ram SUV? Would they even be able to do it? And the answer is it'd actually be pretty easy for them to make this Ram SUV. That is because Jeep is re-releasing the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer. And guess what? Both of those vehicles actually ride on the DT platform. If you don't know, the DT platform is the same platform that the Ram 1500 lays on. And so literally what they've taken is the Ram 1500 platform, modified it slightly, and now we have a Jeep SUV that's riding on that. And so we actually technically already have a Ram SUV, it just happens to have a Jeep badge on it. So if they wanted to take that vehicle and turn it into a Ram, it'd be pretty easy. Just got to change the exterior sheet metal a little bit to make it look more like a Ram, and then change the interior a little bit, again, to make it look a little bit more like a Ram, and boom! There you would have it. We would have a Ram SUV. Now, in terms of what I think it would actually look like, and I'll try to find renders because a lot of people have rendered, and they usually call it the Ram Charger, if you guys are wondering. A lot of people have rendered these over time, and so I'll kind of try to show those throughout this video. But I can imagine pretty much a very similar front end as to what you get with the Ram 1500, but then obviously no truck bed or anything like that, and so then it would just continue. And so I guess if you have seen the new Ram 1500 with like a shell on the back, then that is somewhat what it would look like if they did end up making a Ram Charger from an exterior perspective. And then interior wise, they literally could just do the same interior they have with the Ram, so it would be different than the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer, because those ones are kind of going to fight against luxury. So first off, like the Wagoneer is on like the Tahoe Expedition side, and then the Grand Wagoneer like luxury SUVs like Range Rovers and all that kind of stuff. So those interiors will be quite a bit different. But they could just take the whole interior lineup that you get with the current Ram 1500, and they could just put it so you could have like a Bighorn, a Laramie, a Limited, all that kind of stuff, even maybe a Longhorn, maybe even a TRX Ram Charger, right? That would be pretty cool, right? A 702 horsepower Ram SUV, that would be pretty fun. But aside from that, what do I actually think they do from a powertrain perspective? So I think obviously if they did do this, it would share the powertrains that the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer have. But I think they might change things up a little bit because Ram buyers are a little bit different than Jeep buyers. So Jeep buyers are actually a little bit more open to smaller displacement engines, turbochargers, hybrid systems, all that kind of stuff. Ram buyers, not so much. They like big naturally aspirated engines. And so I imagine with this new Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, when they release it, it's probably going to have a hybrid powertrain available. It's probably going to have a twin turbo or turbocharged powertrain available as well. Whereas if they move this over to the Ram side, they probably use the same 5.7 liter V8 for one of the packages, and maybe they'd offer one of the higher performance twin turbo engines that'll have more power, more torque and all that than the 5.7 V8. And if you guys haven't seen my video on the new inline 6 that Ram is potentially putting in the truck, then go watch that video. So they could do something like that. But again, if they were to release this like right away, I think that they would stick with a 5.7 Hemi. Maybe they do a 6.4 Hemi, probably not, because that would take quite a bit of engineering. But maybe they would do, again, a top-of-line version with the Hellcat engine. Again, this is just all like guesswork at this point. I thought this would be a fun video to make. But that's basically what I think the vehicle would look like. Is it would just be on the same platform as the 1500 and then the Grand Wagoneer, and then they would pretty much just take what they've done on the Grand Wagoneer or Wagoneer, whatever you want to say, and then they would just reskin it, change the interior, make it a Ram, and then they'd probably use the 5.7 V8 because that's just what Ram buyers would go for, because they like their big naturally aspirated V8s, and I mean, I'm one of those people, obviously. And then aside from that, they might offer different powertrains that are a little bit against the norm, but that's probably what they would end up doing as a vehicle. And now let's get into whether or not this will actually happen. Now, will Ram actually release this Ram Charger SUV? The answer is yes, no, no, maybe so. I honestly don't know. But I'll give you guys the pros and cons. So first off, if we start on the pro side of things, it wouldn't really cost them all that much to release this vehicle. They pretty much just need a design team to release this vehicle because, again, we already have the Grand Wagoneer that is built on the modified version of the 1500 platform that they could just reskin and turn into a Ram, and that's what this vehicle would be. So you don't really need engineers or anything like that to get into this. You just need some people to design the outside and then the inside, and then just pretty much run with it from there. Now, aside from the low cost of entry, I think that it'd actually be a pretty good amount of demand for this vehicle because the Ram brand recently has just absolutely exploded in popularity, especially with the release back in, well, it was actually back in 2018 with the new 2019 truck. It's crazy. Like, there's so many people that were Ford people, die hard, and that were die hard Chevy people, and I don't know why I said that backwards with the Ford. But anyways, there's so many people that were just die hard fans for those brands that then went to Ram because, again, with the new Ram, really nice interior. It rides like a luxury vehicle. It's super capable. It looks really good. It's got really cool technology as well. And so there's just so much to love about the truck. And so if they just took all of that equipment and then basically turned it into an SUV, I think it would do amazingly well, especially with the current popularity of the brand. And so I definitely think there would be a market for it. And so, yeah, again, I think the cost of entry for them to release this wouldn't be that high because they already have the vehicle pretty much engineered. And then on top of that, I do think that there would be quite a few people that would be interested in this vehicle as long as they get the powertrains correct and all that. And I mean, really, they, like I said, they could just throw the 5.7 Hemi in it and then call it a day. And then if they wanted to release a more expensive version, they could throw the 6.4 in it, and then obviously they'd have to re-engineer some stuff, or they could just basically, you know, take the TRX platform and then boom, we'd have a TRX SUV, which would be pretty cool. So they could do that for a higher performance version. Now, the cons going against this is the fact that, again, we already pretty much have a Ram SUV. It's called a Jeep, and I feel like that is what they would end up saying, like, as a company, right? Not Ram, right? Because you have all the individual companies, but then they're all under the parent company, and the parent company is just going to say, oh, you want a Ram SUV? Just go buy a Wagoneer, right? I think that that would be their mentality rather than selling it as its own individual vehicle under a different brand name, which kind of sucks because, you know, some people, they like to have things all from one brand, and even if they're under the same parent company, right, they just want everything under one brand. And so I feel with those people. So I think that's definitely a con going against it. And then on top of that, Ram has just really wanted to basically brand itself as a truck brand. That's what they've been going for. That's why they split from Dodge. Instead of being Dodge Ram, right, they're now just Ram, and they just sell trucks. And yes, this would be a truck-based SUV, but it'd still be an SUV. And so I just don't think, I think that's another thing going against it, is that Ram, again, just wants to stick with trucks. And so they're going to leave the SUVs to Dodge, and they're going to leave the SUVs to Jeep. And so maybe we'll see like a Dodge version of this Grand Wagoneer. That would be pretty cool, but still, I think it'd be cool to have the Ram SUV version, but I don't think it's likely because, again, it's all under the same parent company, and they're probably just going to say, hey, if you want that, go buy the Jeep. We'll answer the last question of whether or not you should buy this, and then we'll quickly cap off the video. And my short answer would be yes, if you love the Ram brand, and if you want a third or SUV, right? If they release this and that's what you're going for, then I definitely think it'd be worth it. Again, it'd be pretty cool because then your like whole garage could match. I mean, obviously this would be a very expensive garage, but I'm just saying this hypothetically. You could have like your Ram TRX, and that could be your fun off-road truck. And then you could have like your Ram Cummins, and that would be like your fun towing truck, right? And that you tow your camper with. And then you could have your Ram Charger SUV, and so then that would be the vehicle you take the kids around in. And so you literally could have like the coolest setup ever if they made this. Like, Ram, if you're watching this, you need to make this so that someone could have that garage setup with a TRX, a 3500 Cummins, and then Ram Charger SUV. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, if you're all about the Ram brand, if they release it, I definitely think it's worth it. I've had, well, yeah, 3 Rams at this point. It's pretty crazy. I absolutely love the brand. I love the vehicles. And so, yeah, if they made an SUV, I'd be all about it. But yeah, that's going to sum things up for today's video. If you're stopping for the first time, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe. Comment down below what you think about this particular vehicle. And then if you guys do want me to make a video on a vehicle that hasn't been released yet, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll be more than happy to cover it. And then finally, if you feel like my videos are of value to you, I'm going to include a link to my Patreon in the description down below, and really appreciate your support over there. I'll see you guys.